All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Fights Unwrapped. To the right of me is my co-host, Mr. Alec Carr. So, Alec, if you wanted to plug anything in, this is your time to do so.
Yeah, guys, you can, as always, follow me on my Twitter handle. It's AlexCDCar. Got some crazy off the wall opinions. Working on some articles to be put out there. A lot of content coming out of there. And I always say, if you feel like you disagree with anything I say tonight or anything you see posted in there, please comment. Please at me, do whatever you want because I love controversy and I love getting into it about anything sports, not just fights. You can also follow me at Fourth and 26 Sports, where a lot of Philadelphia content's coming out, but it's more a lot of nationwide stuff, retweets of important headlines, important news articles, and then as always, you can follow me, Monique, and many others at Unwrapped Sports Network. It's we're obviously affiliated with them. You can follow us at Fights Unwrapped, but Unwrapped Sports Network is great. You can get personal opinions and fact based opinions from all over the nation. So please like and follow them as well.
Okay, awesome. So before we get into our headlines, we gotta talk about our sponsors real quick. All right, so rxhemp.com is a huge, Carlos Condon is a huge proponent of rxhemp.com. He uses it for his aches and pains and recovery. And so if anybody is training, everybody has any injuries or aches and pains and you want premium CBD products, please go visit rxhemp.com and use our promo code rxhemp-usn to get 10% off your order today. As well, I'm not crazy about this card, but it won't stop me from betting because I still will for sure. And I use mybookie.ag, and you can use our promo code, the USN promo code USN100 for a 100% sign up bonus. That's right, you get double your deposit up to $1,000 if you have that lying around. All right, so which headline should we talk about first? Let's talk about this one first. Kevin Holland is going to work on his wrestling skills because of his last two losses to Derek Brunson and Marvin Vittori. He is now saying he's going to go ahead and go to train at AKA to work on his wrestling, probably with Daniel Cormier and the rest of the gang right there. So, and my thoughts on that, I think it's smart. I think that Tai Tuivasa is a great example of someone who went to AKA to work on his wrestling and just came out dominating in the clinch. So, what do you think about this, Alucard? Do you think this is a smart move? Do you think, a lot of people are saying that he should go and switch camps? What do you think about him going to AKA to work on his wrestling?
I think this is exactly what he needs to do. He's got an obvious hole in his game. I mean, he's a black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's got great striking. He can't wrestle. He just can't do it. And for those who don't realize it, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and wrestling are entirely different. They're not the same thing, not whatsoever. So I think this is absolutely the right thing to do. He's going to Daniel Cormier, who's probably one of the best wrestling coaches internationally, not just nationwide. So I I'm impressed. I think this shows that because me and you started speculating that maybe his fight IQ isn't that good. Maybe he's not very smart, but he's got all the talent. He's just one of those guys that isn't very smart. I think this shows that he is actually smart. He's aware of the holes in his game, and he's trying to get them better. We'll see what happens. Wrestling's not just something you pick up. It takes years of practice. Any
Mm-hmm.
wrestler would tell you that. You can't just get into the gym and start wrestling and be amazing at it. I don't think he's looking to be amazing. I think he's just looking. I think he's looking for a lot of takedown defense with wrestling. He's looking for like Tai Tuivasa to guard the clinch and get ready for for somebody to wrestle against him. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's more preventative than to be able to use it as an offensive weapon for him.
Right. This shows me that he's mature. Like even though like he has a big belt, and he said a bunch of things about, saying like he won't succumb to wrestling and stuff like that, because he talks so much, right? But then now he's saying he's going to AKA to work on his wrestling. I think it shows a lot of maturity, a sign of respect as well, because obviously before, I don't think he took this really seriously, like the fact that he needs to at least get some takedown defense in there,
Yeah.
because like if you guys haven't seen the fights with him and Derek Brunson and Marvin Vittori, you should go and watch them, because they're not pretty whatsoever. He literally just gets mauled. And so, at least like going to AKA, which is one of the best academies worldwide, he gets to work on his takedown defense at least. And like Alex said, it's completely correct that wrestling is not the same thing as jiu-jitsu whatsoever, right? So you have to, and I don't think he, like you said, he doesn't have to be amazing at it, but at least he gets to work on his defense. And the rest of him, like, he has so much going for him. It's just that he talks a lot, and then he doesn't, like, I still don't think he's the smartest, one of the smartest fighters out there, in my opinion. I just think he talks way too much. He talks more than he thinks, and now, at least we'll see. We'll see what happens with him, because like I really do think he has all the talent in the world. I just think that and all the potential in the world to be great. It's just that he has one little hole to fix, and I feel like at that point, and then obviously his fight IQ after that, he might be unstoppable in that division.
Well, I would say, I don't think his fight IQ is super high, but we were talking around and joking. It was mainly joking in the chats and stuff that Kevin Holland has zero fight IQ, because he looks like in the Brunson fight and the Vettori fight, he had no idea what he was doing. So I'm not trying to say his fight IQ is really, really high. I don't think it is. It's high enough to realize that he has a hole in his game. Hey, let's not beat around the bush and try to be nice like you're trying to be, Money. Let's be fun about it. It's a huge hole in his game that he doesn't know. It's not just that he can't, he can't wrestle, but he can work around it with his Brazilian jiu-jitsu because he's so good. Like Dubronx, for example, is so good at Brazilian jiu-jitsu that he can work around everything else. So this is a huge hole in his game, and until he learns at least the defensive parts of wrestling, he's got very little title aspirations or title chances. It's just that simple, and I think somebody got to him. Maybe even DC called him and was like, "Listen, dude, you're one of the best fighters on the talent-wise in the entire UFC, but you got to learn how to wrestle. You got to learn a defensive wrestling. Come to my gym and we'll teach you." Because if he does, he's going to be a beast. But again, the fight IQ still, I got to see it to believe it. I'm really starting to think there's something to him wanting to take fights on short notice, because you don't have to have an extremely high fight IQ to fight a guy on short notice, because they didn't get ready for you. They got ready for the other guy. Now, I'm excited whenever a guy with all the talent in the world is looking to add something. So we'll see what happens. Good for him. Get to work, Kevin Holland. Take some time. Don't take a fight until the end of the summer. Take some time.
Exactly.
Learn wrestling.
Just let's pump your brakes, man. Like, this is your time to learn. This is not the time to open your big mouth and say, "Oh, I want this guy. This is off COVID protocol. I'm gonna step in and take another fight." No. If you wanna start winning again, this is the time to improve on your craft, and then you're gonna win some fights after. Just because, especially if he actually shuts up and learns, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference right there.
I don't think he'll ever shut up, but he's got to learn. He can still talk. Just take some time and learn what you're doing, because the entire UFC knows what to do against you now. Until you fix it, you're not going to win another fight.
Yeah, it's like he's exposed. Everybody, fans know it, commentators know it, fighters know it. They've exposed him. Like, Brunson and Vittori have exposed the fact that his takedown defense, especially when it comes to wrestling, is 0 to none. So, and I bet you, you're probably right. I bet you DC did contact him, because I know he was a huge fan of him. He was always calling out Kevin Holland. He was always excited, like, "Oh, this man's on a win streak of fight win streak. Oh, hey Bean, what's up?
We got a special guest here.
Nothing wrong with that. If he wants to talk fights, or I'm down for that. But yeah, I would be surprised if DC called him up and gave him the gesture of going to his gym, which is obviously a great gesture. You see a lot of people coming out of that gym being great stars. So I mean, Kevin Holland, I just can't wait to see what you learn from it. Please don't take another fight before you actually learn something from AKA Academy. So we'll move on to our next headline, which is I'm excited about this fight. I'm really excited. This is the fight that should have been there. No offense to Izzy versus Jan, but this should have been the fight. Glover Teixeira finally gets his title shot against Jan Blachowicz, and I'm all for it. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited because I'm a Glover Teixeira fan, and I think that he's so ready, for this title defense. And I don't know, man. Jan really did impress me against Izzy, but Izzy and Glover Teixeira are two different fighters. Glover Teixeira is amazing on the ground, so I would love to see Jan's like ground game against his, because that to me is like really exciting. At least when I think about it. What do you think, Alikar, about this fight?
I mean, this is such a great fight because Jan showed that he's more than just a heavy right hand. So, which gets me very excited that against Izzy, he proved that he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. Um, which he'll need to be to fight Glover Teixeira, because Glover Teixeira will take you down and he will put you in deep waters and you won't be able to get out of it. Doesn't matter if you're bigger than him. Doesn't matter if you're stronger than him. He just knows how to do that. He knows how to use leverage and to get into the position he needs to. And at his late year, he's in his 40s, right? I don't have his stuff right in front. But this is the best Glover has ever been. I mean, the Santos fight showed Glover Teixeira and who he is. This is a guy. Jan's not going to be able to knock him out. So it's going to have to go to the ground, and Jan better be ready. Jan better be ready for some ground defense, because this is the exact opposite of what we were talking about with Kevin Holland. Glover Teixeira is a monster on the ground. The guy's got a freaking giant head, and he can't get knocked out, as we saw. So Jan, listen, I think Jan wants to keep this standing. I think we saw Jan on the ground. I think if we're all being honest, we all know that Jan's not as good as Glover on the ground. So I think he wants to keep the standing. He's got to be really, really patient. That's why, all the guys that have beat Teixeira have been really, really patient. That you can't do what's not. We all thought that Santos had that fight ended 4 or 5 times. But we saw, if you rush Teixeira, he will put you into deep waters and beat the shit out of your face on the ground. So, I'm excited for this fight. I think it's going to be an absolute battle. I can't wait for it. I think it's targeted for UFC 266, so we're going to have to wait a long time, unfortunately. But
it's in September, I think. September?
Right.
If I'm not mistaken,
right, September. So, but I'm ready. I'm ready for this fight. I'm glad we got some excitement back in the light heavyweight division, because, the light heavyweight division is, in UFC history, has always been one of the best, and it's been not at its best for a long time. So I'm glad there's some excitement to this division.
That's good. When I just remember that Santos fight, and we were just like, we were obviously Thiago Santos is our guy right here, and then seeing him rush in that fight, and then seeing how Glover Teixeira just put him in deep waters on the ground, just makes me think. And also, he's 42 years old. He's turning 42 this year, which means that he'll be 42. He'll be at least 42 this year, and then he's fighting for the belt at 42. Can you believe that? And the fact that he has probably his chin is probably the toughest, because I have never seen someone get mauled or try to get mauled from Thiago Santos like that and not fall to the ground. And okay, maybe what's called Thomas Almeida has a chin as well that might beat him, but just because of the whole Sugar Sean O'Malley kick that happened. But I'm excited for this fight. I mean, I think that Jan would want to keep it standing up, and I think he'll be surprised at how tough Glover Teixeira really is. And you're right, Alucard, you have to be patient. Yes, Bean, you have to be patient. That's right. Yes, if you're not patient, then he'll like he's just been in the game for so long. He knows how to get you on the ground. He knows how to submit you, and I don't know. I'm excited. I personally think it's his time to shine. What do you have any predictions on who you think is gonna win this fight? It's too early for you.
It's a little too early for me. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the more Glover recent fights than just the Santos fight. Um, I think Jan can win this fight. I think he showed he's got the fight IQ to not rush.
True.
And if we're being honest, Thiago Santos would have won that fight probably if he wasn't coming off of one of the most devastating injuries a fighter has ever had.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah.
And a long layoff. That Santos could have very well won that fight because, I mean, we remember reading afterwards that Santos wasn't even training on the ground yet when he took this fight. He hadn't even started training on the ground because he was that far. That's how bad the injury was. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me to pick because I love Teixeira. I want to see him wear the belt before he leaves. Before he hangs up the gloves, which I think we will see him, do the gesture of taking off his gloves at the end of this fight. Whether win or lose, and it will be a sad day. But listen, Teixeira, if you go back through his fight history, some of the UFC all-time greats would tell you that Teixeira is the toughest fight they've ever had. John Jones raved about him after the Santos fight. He felt like this is a guy that even guys like John Jones have all the respect in the world for. And for him to be doing this at 42, it's like Dan Henderson status. So that only a couple of guys can do this. And only a couple of guys can keep the chin that Glover has. So I think Jan probably wins this fight, but it's not going to be easy. Not at all.
Yeah, you know what? I'm definitely gonna choose with my heart in this one, even though it's really early to really say anything right now. But I'm definitely choosing with my heart. I definitely think that it's Glover's time, just because I just love him so much. Like his fight IQ, his game, like just the fact that I have a thing for submissions, and the fact that he just knows how to put you in deep waters on the ground. I mean, he's just exciting. At the end of the day, he's just exciting to watch. And at 42 years old, not bad whatsoever, Glover Teixeira. So I'm excited for this fight, but we still have a long way to go. So we are going to talk about that at a later date. All right. So last headline, which I really I don't want to talk about it, but I feel like we have to talk about it because if any of you guys have watched me and Alex other streams, one thing about us is that we're not afraid to shy from really controversial topics, and this is something that's very controversial. If anybody has not seen, Rose did an interview recently, and she was saying how it was basically her motivation to fight Weili Zhang came from the fact that she represents communism just because she's Chinese, and that's number one. That's not true. Whatsoever. I don't know where I understand like where she might have gotten that far and thought that way, but that's not exactly what's going on right now. And plus, Dustin said in the comments before, it's like, why does her nationality matter? It makes Rose kind of a lot of people are starting to falter, and not all her fans are going away just because of this one comment, and she stands by it. So I don't think she understands, like you said, Alikar, what the term "better dead than red" actually means. But she still stands by those comments, and that's making me me and you are Thug Rose fans. But then after seeing that comment, it makes you realize who's been feeding this information in her head. I think I know who it is personally, right? And it's just not. I don't know. It's just not cool to make those comments, right? So thank you for the love, Stephen Miles, one of my friends there. So sorry, I'm like talking about this controversial topic, and then like all these really good comments are coming up. Thank you guys.
Throw them up. Throw them all up. Throw all the
Exactly.
comments up. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's wrong. It's not right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not like Zhang has sat there and you know actively promoted the Chinese Communist government and
Exactly.
like it's like some other fighters you could actually say something like this about and be accurate. Like some fighters actually
Yeah.
support some. Sorry for the language, but support some pretty fucked up ideals.
Yeah.
And some pretty fucked up people. So, but I mean, as far as I know, Zhang has never came out and been like, yes, I absolutely approve of the atrocities that have occurred in China's past. And like, so I don't know where she's getting this. It seems odd to come out of Rose's mouth. Like I was shocked reading it. I was like, little
I was
Rose,
so sad.
like
Yeah.
what the hell? It's not right. It's absolutely. I mean, I don't know if this matters. There's never good timing to make a racist comment like this, obviously. But right now, when racism and Asian awareness is at its all-time highest it's ever been. Thank God it's finally gotten to this point. Like, it's just what do you? First of all, where did you get this? God, like, do you understand the comment that you made?
I don't think she understands. It's total ignorance. Total ignorance right there.
I think it is too, and it's the thing is about Rose, we don't really know a lot about her. She's quiet, she's reserved, she doesn't talk that much. We know she's got some, mental health issues that she's taking care of, which is why she has so many fans. But this is shocking. I still don't have a definite reaction to it other than I hope somebody, maybe Zhang, maybe not Zhang, but somebody is getting to her and from the UFC is getting to her and being like, listen, we got to educate you. We got to you got to know what you're saying. Kind of like, to our fans who watch football, it reminds me kind of the Deshaun Jackson situation from last offseason when he made the comment, the fake quotes from Hitler quotes and all that stuff he saw education and was very open to it, went to Auschwitz and the Holocaust Museum with some survivors. So it kind of reminds me like that, but I haven't heard anything from the UFC coming out and saying, we're going to provide Rose education. She knows what she's saying. And for her to double down kind of does indicate she does know what she's saying, which is just sad. It's just sad. I don't know going forward if I can be a fan for her. I'm definitely probably not going to root for her in this fight. I'm more interested in how you feel about it, to be honest. I mean, you're much more educated and much more able to talk about this topic than I am. I'm just, a generic white man from the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, this hits hard for me just because I am a Rose fan, and obviously, if anyone does not know, I am Chinese, so this kind of hits really, really hard at home for me. Just because I feel like, when I read the article and when it said basically the fact that she's Lithuanian, like she has Lithuanian blood in her, right? And then the fact that communism did not treat them right, back in the past. I'm like, I understand that for a fact, but I don't think she understands that Zhang can't really talk about the government because that's gonna she could be persecuted. There's a lot of bad things could happen to her if she talks about the government. So, and it just I don't know where that came from. It's just all of a sudden she did an interview and then now she's saying this, her motivation is to stop this to go against communism and nobody's the fact that it bothers me is because nobody's saying that Zhang supports communism. It's just the fact that she's Chinese, and which makes this obviously a racist issue that Rose is making those comments. And it hits home for me too, because like I'm a huge Rose Namajunas fan, but if she knew I was Chinese and then she thought that I support the communism government, like what is it to me? Even though I've never said anything about supporting the communism government. So that's to me the whole issue right here, is that like I feel like you're speaking out of your ass right now, Rose, because like she hasn't said anything about it. She doesn't have a tattoo. She's never liked a photo or something like that. Zhang,
Right.
she's so wholesome too. She likes Tom Brady photos, for crying out loud. That's the Zhang that we know. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and usually, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but usually in oppressive governments like that, when somebody remains quiet, they're telling you their opinions by remaining quiet. Because they're not allowed to say anything, because she wants to be able to travel back and forth to China probably. And if she were planning on coming out and saying something, she would have to move first. Like, people don't understand how serious this is. And move first, and then be okay with never going back probably. Which is a giant thing to ask of somebody. So, I mean, it's just, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Rose saying she said that the comments, because she's Lithuanian and they were oppressed by the communist parties and blah 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 blah, just seems like I'm justifying the messed up thing I said, and it looks like a justification defense when she should have gone the route of Deshaun Jackson and said, it's come to my attention, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to seek education. Whether he meant it or not, and I think he did because he actually did what he said he would do, it doesn't matter whether he meant it or not. It's just what you do. I always hope somebody means it when they say it. You don't double down. That's what Gina Carano did.
And look what happened to her. She got fired.
A woman works for Disney. Anyway, that's a topic for a different stream. But it's sad. It's sad. I'm going to let the situation unfold and see what happens next. But as of right now, you can count me. I was definitely rooting for Rose in this fight coming up. I'm not anymore. And not at all.
Yeah, me neither. Like I was torn because I really liked Rose and I really like Zhang. I was torn. I was leaning towards Rose Namajunas. Now the fact that she's like made this comment, and like obviously this is coming out of nowhere, and the timing of it can't be any worse because they're just literally weeks before their fight coming up. And Rose, I'm just disappointed. I'm just like really disappointed because like that she's like one of the last fighters that I thought that would ever make those comments. But hey, I guess you never know because she's super reserved, she's super quiet. You just never know what's in that head of hers, right? So
yeah.
So there you go. That's my rant of the week, and then Alec will have his rant of the week coming up soon.
Something I've already ranted about twice, by the way.
That's right, but that's okay. That's all right. Don't you worry about that. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna go and talk about the UFC Vegas 24 main card. Let me just see if I can pull this up right here. Share screen. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the first fight. I feel like that's all you, Alec Carr, because Bill Algeo is your guy, and Ricardo Ramos. There you go. He's from Philly, right?
Yeah, he's from the suburbs of Philly. He fights out of King of Prussia, which is kind of nationally known because it's got the second largest or first largest mall in the world. So, and I live 2 minutes away from there. So I'm a huge Algeo fan. And it's not just because he's from right down the street from me. It's also because this guy's just a good fighter. I mean, he came out of nowhere. He beat in the Lamas fight, leading up to that fight where we were all like, everybody in the MMA community was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, Tapology didn't even have a picture of him up.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
he put on a freaking show against Ricardo Lamas, who's no joke. He lost the fight, but he put on a show against him. And then comes out and beats Spike Carlisle, who's also no joke, is a serious UFC fighter.
Mm.
And so I'm excited for this fight because I want to see what Algio can do. He's got another tough opponent. He's starting off his UFC career with 3 tough opponents in Ricardo Ramos. Um, who we were just saying in the pre-fight, we can't believe this guy's only 25. He's been in the UFC since it feels like forever. His first fight was in 2017. Got all the potential in the world. Could be, is definitely a guy that has championship aspirations. We'll see if he can live up to that potential and that hype surrounding him. But this is a tough fight. This is what I said in the pre-fight is probably the most exciting fight besides the main card because these are 2 guys who are looking to make some moves in the division. These are 2 guys who could really make a run at things if they continue winning. So there's not huge implications in this, but this is a big fight nonetheless because of these guys both are young in their UFC careers and are trying to get to that next level.
Right.
If I had to pick, I'm sorry, Algio. I love you, being a local, but I would have to pick Ricardo Ramos. The guy's a much more well-rounded fighter than
Well-versed.
Algio.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I just think he can do a little bit more of everything, whereas Algio, the Senior Perfecto, as his Tapology nickname is labeled, is a really good striker. He's not much more than that. He's got some ground game. It's not like he's lacking it entirely, but he's really just a striker. So this is a really tough opponent. I'm going to be rooting for him, but I'm picking Ricardo to win this fight.
Yeah, you know what? I think that Bill Algeo might surprise people. No, I think I'm gonna be picking Bill Algeo just because, like, if anything that I learned in his last few fights is that he has, like, for a young guy, he has pretty good fight IQ. Super patient. Obviously picks his shots. The type of fighter that I usually root for. Fight IQ is so important to me. So, Ricardo Ramos, obviously very, very tough opponent. But I don't know. I think Bill Algeo, maybe this is his time to shine. Maybe, the sky's the limit for both of these men. And, it's going to be a tough fight. But at the same time, I think, like, if anything, like, when it goes the distance, you see, like, Bill Algeo coming forth as a winner in a lot of the fights that he's been in. And so, like, for me, this might go the distance. And if it goes the distance, then maybe Bill Algeo might take the advantage just because, like, if anything, it shows me his cardio is good, he's patient, he has great fight IQ, his striking is awesome, his ground game is all right. So
I was just going to say, it kind of reminds me of Wonder Boy. He's got that kickboxing background. He's got a similar stance, a similar style. He knows he's not the greatest on the ground, but he's got good takedown defense. I'm probably not as good as Wonder Boy's takedown defense because that might be
obviously,
top,
yeah.
yeah, ever in history. But he's got that same style. And I think we even mentioned this leading up to his last fight. He's really smart. You're right. He picks his shots. He knows like Wonder Boy. He's not as quick as Wonder Boy with his strikes, but he knows that I can get in, and with my kickboxing, I can get in, land 3 strikes, and get out. Get in, land 3 strikes, and get out. And he's very long and lanky like Wonder Boy too. So I'm not saying he's definitely going to lose this fight. I think it will be close, but I think Ramos is at a slightly different level than the other guys he fought. Maybe it's because I'm a true believer in a guy that's 25 and has shown all the potential in the world. But like I said, I'll be rooting for Algeo.
That's for sure. Okay, so we're 1-1 right now. So our next fight is a lightweight bout between Luis Pena, which I haven't seen in a long time, versus Alex Munoz. All right. My thoughts on this fight. I haven't seen Luis Pena in like forever. So it's like for me choosing him in this fight, I don't know if I could choose him in this fight because Alex Munoz is no joke, 6-1 record. And like Luis Pena, he's a great striker, don't get me wrong, he hits hard. But I don't know if I could choose him in this fight just because I haven't seen him fight in so long. What do you think, Alikar?
This is definitely really tough to pick.
Yeah.
Because, though he hasn't fought in what feels like a long time, Luis Pena, I'm looking at his Tapology right now. Shout out to Tapology, by the way. Not a sponsor or anything, but you guys are awesome. Last fight was June 27th of 2020. He lost to Worthy.
Oh yeah.
This fight's weird for me because Luis Pena, since getting to the UFC and leaving Ultimate Fighter and getting up to the UFC level, he's been very inconsistent against not really top flight opponents.
Yeah.
He's looked really, really good in some of them, and he's looked really, really bad in others.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's a hard guy to pick. He's a fun guy to root for because he's always gonna go out there and put on a show. But I think I have to. I agree with you. I have to go with Munoz. Again, he hasn't really fought anyone of big name yet. This will probably be his toughest opponent yet. But he's a guy that's a smart fighter. He's 31 years old, but it feels like he fights much younger than 31.
Yeah. Sure.
And he's just a better fighter. He's a more consistent fighter, and I will always pick the consistency over inconsistency.
That's
so I think
fair.
he wins this fight. I think he wins it by decision.
That's fair. All right, let's move on to the middleweight belt. All right, obviously we have our views on Abdul Razak Hassan, but he's facing against Jacob Malkoun in a middleweight bout. So obviously we're not gonna root for Abdul Razak Hassan at all, just because of anyone. Like I said, me and Alikar, we do not shy away from controversial topics, and this was a sexual assault case that happened not too long ago. So if anyone wants to read up on that background, you can. He just got the charges off of him, which is that's BS because like basically they found a DNA on the bed sheets. But anyways, let's not talk about that right now because then we'll be here for a while if we talk about it. So okay. So, but I actually think, in all honesty, Jacob Malkoun has a chance to win this fight. And a lot of people don't really know him, but he hits really hard. And 4-1 record's not too bad right now. What do you think about this fight, Alikar?
Yeah, Jacob Malkoun looks to continue on the Australian fighter success stories that have been going on as of late. He's leading up into his last fight against Phil Hawes. I think on our stream I raised my serious concerns for him as a UFC fighter. He tends to empty his gas tank early and quickly. Yeah. And he tends to really try to end the fight in the first round, and then if he doesn't, he's gassed. Now in other promotions he's been able to do it because he is good. He's a really good fighter. He doesn't have the best cardio in the world. But if he lands a punch clean, you're going to sleep. You're going to the hospital. Yeah. Which is what I'm really, we've seen from Alisson that he's been exposed to that in his, the Chaos Williams fight. We all know how that ended.
Love that fight. That was amazing.
When is he fighting again? By the way,
I know, right? Can't wait till Chaos is fighting soon.
I mean, Chaos. He literally knocked him out by grazing his chin.
First punch of the fight. First punch.
One of the greatest knockouts I've seen, and still unbelievable when you watch it today because he hardly connected. And And Malkoon's got maybe not that kind of power, but very similar power. Where if he hits
Right.
you, you're going to sleep. And
Mhm.
the other thing about Al-Hassan is, you mentioned the not situation, the crime he committed, the sexual assault he committed.
Right.
I don't beat around the bush around this shit. The guy committed a
Mhm.
sexual assault and celebrated like a sociopath after he got off. Um, he was posting stuff on social media, celebrating. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. It makes my
Yeah.
stomach churn to this day. So I hope he gets his face knocked off in this fight. He
Yeah.
deserves it. And I think he will. I think you're right. I don't think he's. The good thing is, I don't think he's that good of a fighter.
I was
He's
gonna
just
say
not
that.
that
I don't
great.
think he's that good of a fighter either.
He's, he's got power for days, sure, but he has no striking defense. He doesn't move his head, zero head movement,
Mhm.
and very bad footwork. So maybe Malkoon will end his UFC career, and we'll never have to see this scumbag again.
Yeah. We might be right. All right, let's move on to the next fight. You have Andre Arlovsky filling in, and he is going to be facing against Chase Sherman in a heavyweight bout. So I think that Arlovsky. Like, here's the thing: going the distance. For some reason, Arlovsky always wins going the distance. And like that's because like he has like we were talking about this like he doesn't have it in him right now to knock someone out, right? So if anything, he's gonna win going distance. But I actually think he might win against Chase Sherman, just because it's Chase Sherman, and I don't really like feel anything towards him. To be honest with you, no offense to anybody who's a huge fan of Chase Sherman, it's just not my cup of tea as a heavyweight fighter. But Arlovsky's coming in this as a late entry. He is subbing in for another heavyweight fighter that was supposed to fight in this card, so he might have
Yeah,
the
Parker
advantage in this
Porter.
one. Yeah, right. Porter actually surprised the hell out of me. I remember in the last fight. I remember that, so I was actually looking forward to this fight, but it's okay. So, well, who do you think's gonna win? I think Arlovsky he might have it in this one. I just think like if it goes to distance too, which it might be a boring fight. No offense to everybody, but I actually think it might be a boring fight. It might go distance, and Arlovsky might take it. What do you think, Alec Carr?
Yeah, here's the thing about Andre Arlovsky. It feels like the UFC has been trying to get rid of him for years. He went on that losing streak, which started with Tai Tuivasa, and then he kept
Mhm.
losing to. He went on a 3-fight losing streak, losing to not very great fighters. Um, and then he beat Ben Rothwell, lose to Jairzinho Rosenstrike, which he was probably 39 when he lost to him.
Yeah.
And then beat Lanes, beat Tanner Bozer, and lost to Aspinall. Um, I I tend to side with you about Orlovsky winning this fight. He's got the
Mhm.
experience, he's got the knowledge. His fight IQ has always been high, even from his earliest days.
Mhm.
I mean, we were talking about how could you not be an Arlovsky fan? The guy's story is incredible, um, and he's just one of the most underrated fighters of all time. He's never really been able to get to that next level entirely, and has kind of always struggled against the best fighters in the division.
Mhm.
Um, but he's Andre Arlovsky. He's awesome,
Yeah.
and I think he probably will win this fight just on the experience alone. He knows how to get away. Um, here's the thing about Chase Sherman, though. And not a lot of people know what this promotion is, but he comes from BKFC, the
Oh, I know
bare
that one. Yeah.
knuckle. Yeah, he's a bare knuckle fighter.
Mhm.
Um, so there's one thing about him. He's a tough person. To be
Yeah.
able to go into a fight bare knuckle with just tape on, you got to be a different kind of person, different breed.
Yep.
Um, there's got to be something. You got to have some switch in you that says, I'm okay with taking knuckles to my face.
Yeah.
Um, Now, that promotion does not have a lot of really great talent.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
I have watched a couple of those fights. They are fun as hell to watch. They are
Yeah.
terrifying to watch at times.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one thing he's got going for him. He's very, very tough, and he knows how to punch, and he knows how to take a punch, obviously, because he's won a lot of those fights there.
Mm-hmm.
But Arlovski's just too smart. He's on a whole other level than this guy. I
Yeah.
got him winning this fight, and again, the UFC can't force him to retire because yet again he wins when he's not supposed to.
Right. All right, so let's move on to the co-main event. We got Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens versus Drakkar Close in a lightweight co-main event. So we were talking about this right before. I know there's a lot of Jeremy Stevens fans out there, but I'm sorry, I'm not one of them whatsoever. Same as Alikar, we just don't care so much about him. Like, he's on a losing streak, and he really needs this win. And Klaus, like, he's looking really good. So I don't know. I'm never gonna. I'm sorry, but I don't think I'll ever root for Jeremy Stevens in a fight. I'm just gonna say that right now, just because I've never been a huge fan of him, and the fact that he's on a losing streak too doesn't help whatsoever. The only thing that would make me think that he would win this fight is that he might have this motivation to win the fight, because the fact that he's on a losing streak and the fact that he wants to go back up there in title contention, which he was, but then he lost to some of the greatest fighters, at the top of that division. So that's the only reason why I think that if anyone were to think he would win this fight, because I personally don't think he's a great fighter. He hits hard, sure. That's pretty much it for me. Like, when it comes to him, so I'm not gonna root for him. I'm definitely gonna root for Klaus in this fight. What do you think, Alikar?
You know, I think Jeremy Stevens is one of the most overrated fighters of all time. I
Agreed.
hesitate in
Agreed.
saying it because I know there are so many huge Jeremy Stevens fans out there. And listen, he's an entertaining fighter, obviously, but there are people who were ready to crown this guy one of the best fighters of all time before he even really fought anybody. And then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he started, like you said, going up against some of the best talent in the division, he couldn't beat it. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, and granted, he's lost again. It's all against the top opponents in that division, but a 4-fight losing streak is a 4-fight losing streak. It doesn't matter
Yep.
if you've lost to the best of opponents in your division. You still lost 4 fights in a row. Jose Aldo, Zabit, Rodriguez, and Cater are who we're talking about. Drakkar Close. I'm not the biggest fan of him either, but I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I'm going to pick Jeremy Stevens. I think he can beat a guy like Klaus.
He
Close.
should. He should be able to beat a guy like Klaus.
And
That's what I
that's
think. That's
exactly
where
where
you're
I was
going.
going. That's
I think that's where you're
exactly where I
going
was
with it.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
and and the
okay.
one thing that we know for my picks is I tend to pick the guy that should win the fight. When there's an obvious talent discrepancy, where I think there is in this fight. Rose is a good fighter. I'm not saying he's not, but Jeremy Stevens is supposed to be on a whole different level. He does have a lot of talent. I think he's kind of becoming that he's slowly becoming that placeholder, the guy that's, the toll to contention.
Yeah.
The right stop that you have to make before you get to contention. Um, and I think he beats Close in this fight. I do. I think he's good enough to beat him. I don't think he's good enough to beat any of the top guys in the division, but he is good enough to beat Close for sure.
I think that's what you're heading, because like that's what I was like thinking too, like that he should be able to beat these like top, like these not top tier guys, but like second tier guys. Because we were talking about how before Tyron Woodley should be able to beat Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque, a lot of people are saying, we were talking about maybe he's not top tier and stuff like that. Obviously, that whole thing went out the water. Went out the picture when we were watching the fight. But it's the same situation. Is that Jeremy Stevens believes he belongs in that second tier kind of level where he can't beat the top guys in that division. but he should be able to beat Klaus because Klaus is not like he's not the best one of the best fighters that but he's not terrible as well. But like you said, like talent wise, Jeremy Stevens should have more skill than him. Should have the better fight IQ. Should have the better fight IQ. I say should because I don't actually believe that. In my opinion, just because like I guess I've seen him lose to the top, five, pretty much the top five people in that division. So.
Yeah, and it's I'm excited to see more close because this is a fighter that we don't get to see a lot of. He's often, he was a prelim fighter. He's the lower card fighter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see more of him. I'm excited to see him actually fight on a main card and fight against a guy like Jeremy Stevens. Maybe there's a good chance he proves me wrong and wins this fight. I'm not saying that Jeremy Stevens is definitely going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I want to point out too about this fight is Jeremy Stevens hasn't won since 2018.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Let that sink in. 2018 was his last win against Josh Emmett.
That's 3 years. That's 3 years.
3 years. And his greatest victory was against Gilbert. Probably, let me scroll down a little bit so I get this right.
Yeah.
It was Gilbert Melendez. Yeah, his best win is probably against Gilbert Melendez.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a guy that clearly can't beat the next level of competition because he couldn't beat Aldo, he couldn't beat Zabby, he couldn't beat Rodriguez, and he couldn't beat Cater, who is maybe next level.
Right.
So, like, dude, you gotta win this fight. You might get cut. Like, seriously, you might get cut from the UFC.
Yeah, Data's like telling you right now, like, I'm giving you this gem. You better take it. You better ride with it, because this might be your last fight in the UFC. So that's for sure. All right, let's move on to the main event, which is one that I'm not too excited about. You got Robert Whittaker versus Calvin Gastelum. And Alikar, I know this is kind of like your little rant of the week. Obviously, we believe that Gastelum does not deserve Robert Whittaker, and the implications, because there are implications to this fight. Winner of this, a lot of people are saying that might be next in line to fight Israel Adesanya for a title. Originally I believe it was supposed to be Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, but Paulo Costa got he was sick from the flu, and then all of a sudden,
like a month ago, he was sick from the flu a month ago.
A month-long flu, and then Calvin Gastelum came in to swoop in and steal the spotlight and get this opportunity of a lifetime. Because like I said, there are implications in this fight. So, Alikar, this is your time to shine. This is your rant of the week, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Before I get into that, every time I see this fight on promotions or commercials, I get so angry that my body physically gets hot. Like, I get literally heated every time I see this. I have ranted about this twice from leading up to this fight. I've brought it up multiple times. We have talked about the matchmaking issues that are going on in 2021 so far. What the fuck? Why is this really happening? This is so stupid. Robert Whittaker is the #1 contender in the division. #1! And he's fighting, it doesn't even matter. Take Kelvin Gastelum out of it. Because if we're being honest, he gets worse every time he fights. But take his name out of it. He's fighting the #8 fighter who's not on a win streak. This is unheard of in UFC history. If a #8 fighter is fighting a top contender, it's usually because they have won like 6 straight and are ready to prove it against the best of the best. And usually it's in a weak division. This is not a weak division. This is a division on the rise. This is a division where Israel Adesanya just showed he has a weakness. If you can drag him on the ground, you can beat him.
Mhm.
And we got to deal with Calvin Gastelum fighting
Yeah.
against the number one contender, the Reaper, the nicest guy in UFC, the most beloved guy amongst fighters. I think literally won that, didn't won like non-official award. A poll was taken amongst fighters about who was the nicest and most loved fighter in the UFC. This was like a year or two ago, and I'm pretty sure Robert Whitaker won. This is a
Yeah.
guy that lost the fight, didn't lose a fight, but backed out of a fight because he gave his own goddamn bone marrow. Like,
Mhm.
and you are giving this fight, Kelvin Gastelum, the opportunity of a lifetime because he beat Ian Heinz. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
so stupid. He lost to Izzy. Oh, it was a close fight. It was a close fight. I don't fucking want to hear that because he lost to Izzy, he lost to Darren Till, and he lost to Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson, if we're being honest, is on his way down. Ever since that close fight against Izzy Adesanya, when everybody was on the Gastelum train that this guy's gonna be the next thing, look at this close fight. No, what happened was he came across with a great game plan. He has a great coaching staff. He's got a great corner who prepped him for an Izzy fight. Izzy wasn't ready to be attacked like that. He had never faced anybody who had lunged at him like that before,
Mhm. Mhm.
and he still loses. And then he lost again, and then he lost again, and then he fought a nobody fighter and won. Great. Fucking awesome. This is
Right.
so dumb. Robert Whitaker is going to come in. It's not going to be exactly the same way of victory because Whitaker is just not the same style of striker as Holloway.
Right.
But this
Right.
is going to go Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. This is an embarrassment of the UFC and the matchmakers. It shouldn't be happening. This fight should not be happening. When Costa backed out because he was too, and I'm sorry, at me if you don't agree with this. Costa fans, please come at me. I will argue with you until I run out, until I fall pass out because I got nothing left to say. I got no air left in my lungs.
Yeah.
Costa backed out of this fight because he knew he couldn't beat him. Costa is the most overrated fighter in the UFC. He's not a true contender. He got destroyed and his will taken out of him by Izzy because he landed one leg kick and then quit. He doesn't want to fight Robert Whitaker. He doesn't want to fight, period. So he got a flu a month ago. It's just fucking ridiculous. You should have just canceled the fight and said, Whitaker, you get Izzy when he's ready. This is just dumb. I hate it.
It is.
I'm so pissed off. Whitaker, just go in there and handle your business. Take this guy into the ground, be the Reaper, and just fucking beat the shit out of his face. And again, it's my rant, so I'm sorry for cursing, but I get heated about dumb shit like this, where Robert Whitaker is, for whatever reason, feels like he's been targeted by the UFC. He should have already had his rematch with Izzy, if we're being honest. And the fact that he didn't was embarrassment enough. The fact that he had to fight Costa first was stupid enough. Now he's got to fight. What if Gastelum gets a lucky break and wins? What if he gets a lucky break and
man?
Yeah. Like, it's just so stupid. Then you got to promote this fighter who you know is going to lose his next fight. If he somehow wins this fight, you already know he's going to lose against one of the top people because he's already proven to not be able to beat them. I think I'm out of words. I don't think I have anything left to say other than Robert Whitaker, please end this in the first round. End it quick. I don't want to see a fight by decision. I know you could probably win this 5 rounds, all 10-8. But just end it so that we can all go to sleep, please. Because I guarantee you, he's got a huge chip on his shoulder. I think if Robert Whitaker is just as embarrassed by this, I think he can't believe he's got to fight this guy. And it also speaks to Whitaker's willingness to fight. He could have easily have said, "I'm not fighting Gastelum," but he didn't. It speaks to Whitaker and the Reaper and what he's made out of. That he said, "Fuck it, you know what, Dana? If you're gonna give me this, if this is the only fight you're gonna give me, then I'll take it because I like fighting and I need to fight."
Yeah, that's for sure. Before we go, I just wanted to say that you know how you said that it's the number 8 fighter versus number 1 contender for that division. Well, it's the same thing as you know how um, in the flyweight division when it was weak, you know, and then you had Alex Perez who was number 5. No, not number 5. I think he was number 5 facing against Davison Figueiredo. A lot of people were like, why didn't Brandon Moreno get that fight? Well, it was a weak division. It wasn't that great to begin with, and that totally made sense. And Alex Perez was on a win streak. He wasn't on a losing streak. You know, he did fight the best. You know, some of the top guys in that division. So I'm just saying it's like, this is not the same situation. This is the situation where they should have like canceled the fight, like you said, Alikar, and like this makes me like not want to watch this main event. I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like this is gonna be a late. We're East Coast time. This whole main card starts at 10 p.m. I have to wake up at 9 to go to work. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know if this is even worth it to watch this card. So I don't know if I will, but we'll see. We'll see about that. And that makes me a little bit heated. Obviously, we both had our rants of the week, and this has been a really great edition of Fights and Rap, people. Happy Fight Week, and obviously, if you're gonna be watching the main event, please, hopefully Robert Whitaker wins this fight. So let's go. Thank you, Ali Carr, for obviously joining me, and we will see you guys next week.